said earlier that we're going to get David McIntosh from Club for Growth on the phone, and we do. And David is calling in from Drury Old Washington. How are you, David?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are things in crazy Washington this morning?
Crazy as ever and very hot, so it's got everybody's tempers riled.
I would imagine that you've been in D.C. a while. This confirmation hearing with Kavanaugh is pretty much the usual, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is. And you mentioned Judge Bork. I was a young man working for President Reagan when he nominated Bork, and we fought pretty hard to secure his confirmation, but the left beat us. In this case, we've learned a lot, and the Republicans are marching forward, and I believe Kavanaugh will be confirmed. But the Democrats and the left are throwing up anything they can, hoping it will stick, to try to stop this good judge from being put on the Supreme Court.
We're talking to...
I don't know if you
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if you or your listeners happened to see Ben Sass yesterday, but he pointed out that the court is not the place where you take the political disagreements left and right. The court is the place where the law is applied fairly to everybody, as written and as intended. And the political fight should be in Congress. But these senators, including all of them on the left, have given up that power by sending it over to unelected bureaucrats, asking the courts to make decisions. And I really like what Sass said, to get back to the way our founders set up our government in the Constitution, we have to depoliticize the courts and return authority to Congress.
Well, that's assuming that these Democrats agree with that premise, though. I mean, they don't. They see the courts as a political tool, and that's what Republicans and conservatives have to wake up to, that they see this as another opportunity to further a liberal agenda. And I mean, then they've been doing it, as you said, since Bork, and then they tried to do it again with Clarence Thomas. But we're talking to David McIntosh, who's the president for Club for Growth from Washington, D.C. right now. And David, you all made the decision to get into the O'Rourke Ted Cruz race in a big way. Explain to us what you all are doing.
Yes, and 6 years ago, the Club for Growth got behind Ted very early. I think he was like 6% in the polls, helped him win the primary and a runoff against a more establishment Republican. We supported him when he ran for president. He is a spokesman for the pro-growth agenda we believe in: lower taxes, less regulation, returning to limited government, fiscal responsibility, eliminating Obamacare, all of the things that we think are important for restoring prosperity and giving people choices in their lives and ability to keep what they earn and make decisions for themselves. I had assumed most of the last 2 years he would easily be reelected because Texas is a pretty red, solid, conservative state. And what has happened in the last month or so is the Democrat challenger, Congressman O'Rourke, has sort of come on the scene from nowhere. Now, I think Ted's still going to win, but what has happened is Congressman O'Rourke has nationalized this race. He has the Bernie Sanders supporters from around the country sending him $10, $20, $100, and it's amounting to several million of dollars in contributions. He has the hard left, people like George Soros and Stoyer, supporting his technology to win the campaign, and he's made it a real race. So the Club for Growth, as an independent PAC, is coming in basically to support Ted by telling voters in Texas, what's this guy O'Rourke really like? Because he's portraying himself as a man of the people. You know, people not PACs is a slogan. But he has a long history when he was in the El Paso City Council and in Congress of basically helping his rich friends. He's a millionaire himself. He was charged with insider trading in Congress based on knowledge that he had, special knowledge as a congressman. In El Paso, as a member of the city council, he helped this business cartel try to use eminent domain, the power of the government, to condemn a Hispanic middle-class neighborhood, take away their homes, and give it to a developer who can make profit by building a shopping center. That's the type of guy he really is. And what the club's going to do through advertising and internet messaging is tell voters, here's what he's really like. He's kind of like the Elmer Gantry of the movies, where he sounds really good, he's charismatic, but he's selling something that's just not who he is. And he's a con man. We're going to point that out.
I was going to say he's a particularly good actor. And if he hadn't made it in Congress, he would have made it great in soap operas or motion pictures, because he's got the gift of blarney. He's a very charming guy. But as you put, you said Elmer Gantry, and the funny thing of it is that he portrays himself as very Kennedy-esque and kind of a man of the people, and in the Cesar Chavez and Martin Luther King aspect of this whole thing, when in actuality he's been down and dirty in El Paso politics with backroom deals and backroom money as deep as any politician along the border's been ever in Texas.
Exactly. And the record shows that. All of the city council proceedings are there. You can go look at them. They show how he's just been a politician who's basically for sale. And anybody, these rich developers paid his family. They paid his company for services, and he carried their water there against the people. Again, the neighborhood had to organize. And these are poor and middle-class families that are just trying to work and survive and raise their family. And it was threatened their homes would be taken from them. And they rose up and said, no, we protest. So he was never for the people there. But you're right. He's a good actor, and America's looking for somebody with charisma who can inspire them. And he decided to ride that wave. But I think voters deserve to know the truth about who he is and what he really is up to.
David, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and what Club for Growth is all about when we come back from the break. Stay with us. We're talking to David McIntosh, who's the president of the Club for Growth in Washington, D.C., one of the best conservative groups in the United States right now. We'll be back after this. And we're back on the Chad Hasty Show. I'm Matt Cruz, substituting for Chad. You can join the show 770-5790 or text in at 806-680-2790. And on the line is David McIntosh, president of the Club for Growth. And I have to say, one of the preeminent limited government free enterprise groups in the nation. You can visit them, Club for Growth, one word, clubforgrowth.org. To their website, and also the website, easy to navigate. They have great blogs. You can see how your congressmen and your senators are doing on the Hill with regards to the free market and free enterprise, low taxes, really, and which is kind of the name of the game, and let businesses develop. And we were talking about David, Beto O'Rourke, and Ted Cruz. Does it surprise you, kind of from a 20,000-foot perspective, how left a lot of these candidates are running in the midterm elections, and what do you think is going to happen with all that?
Yeah, Matt, I agree that the Democrat Party and the base has taken of their party a real turn to the far left. In Washington, you run into to people of all stripes. So some of the folks that I know who are in the Democratic Party, but more about politics and winning elections, they're kind of horrified at how far left some of these candidates are going. I think mainly because they know the American people are not there. The real radical element that watches Rachel Maddow and believes everything she says, they're there. But most people, working class, middle class families, are much more, if they're Democrats, much more moderate than that. If they're Republicans, they're looking for an opportunity to provide for their family and build for the future, so they want the limited government and more freedom. But because they're really energized, they've been able to make big advances in the primaries and are threatening, in this race, to possibly come out on top by kind of selling this hope for change to voters without really going into detail about all the things that they would do. Their platform stands for free education for everybody, free college. Well, free college sounds great, but who's paying for it and how are we going to do it? Medicare for all, so take the Medicare program and turn it into a government health care program. Repealing the tax cuts that have given middle-class families, an average of about $1,000 to $1,200 more in their take-home pay every year, and has stirred great economic growth. They want to throttle the energy industry by going to global warming and regulating everything that's produced in natural gas and oil, and have this dream of going to all natural solar energy that's frankly not there yet and practical. And all of this platform is rejected by the broad middle of the country, so they don't really talk about that. They talk about how they're against Donald Trump and just want to oppose him and impeach him. But it is much more farther left than even Hillary was when she was running, and frankly quite scary if they were able to get power in the House or the Senate of what they would try to do to this country.
Interestingly enough, here in Texas, we're very well integrated and meshed with the Hispanic community. I mean, we don't even think about it. It just comes naturally. All of my Hispanic friends, in general, do not want an open border. They have sympathy for illegal immigrants, but on the other hand, we want a strong, closed border. We want common sense immigration laws. We do not want people coming into this country to soak up our tax money and our education system and our health system. And what strikes me as just incredible about O'Rourke is that he's playing to this Hispanic base that he thinks he has. But I think the good Hispanic Catholics, the good Hispanic Texans in this state, that's about the last thing that they want. Is a government in your business, in your paycheck, open borders, people flooding across, doing whatever the hell they please. And he's got a real kind of, Disney-esque kind of view of the Hispanic voter in this state. I think at the end of the day, he's completely wrong. And I think Cruz realizes that. Ted is honest with the Hispanic voters. If you look at O'Rourke's record in El Paso, he's done nothing but really insult the Hispanics that have lived around there.
Oh, that's right. Trying to tear down their houses to turn them over to developers.
Yeah,
and he's for the most radical part of their agenda. The sanctuary cities that say, in the name of being politically correct with immigrants, we're going to protect criminals. And nobody, Hispanic, Anglo, blacks, nobody agrees that you should let people go ahead and rape and murder our citizens and not have consequences just to make a politically correct statement. Well, I take that back. Nobody but the jury in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
But certainly in a reasonable, thoughtful place like Texas, you're going to get consensus among a bunch of different groups that, hey, that's too radical and too extreme. But that's where O'Rourke is at. By the way, back on
real quick
in observation.
Yeah, go ahead.
The guy is not who he appears. Beto isn't his real name, right?
Right.
His real name is Robert Francis O'Rourke. He's an Irishman. But he wants to sound Hispanic, so he goes by the nickname Beto.
David McIntosh for Club for Growth. Thank you, David. I appreciate you being on the show with us this morning. Go to clubforgrowth.org, and you can learn more about what they're up to. Thanks again, David. You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show right here on KFYO.